There is no escaping the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. These are called the 5 remembrances, which I recite as a part of my Zen practice each morning. They remind me that life is impermanent and every action triggers a consequence, also commonly known as karma. I am not a Buddhist, but a teacher of Zen meditation, which is rooted in the beliefs of Buddhism. This fertile ground has been an endless source of wonder, encouragement, and life-changing ideas in my 22 years of meditation practice. According to Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche, quote, "The basic definition of meditation is having a steady mind. In meditation, when your thoughts go up, you don't go up. And you don't go down when your thoughts go down. Whether your thoughts are good or bad, exciting or boring, blissful or miserable, you let them be. You don't accept some and reject others. You have a sense of greater space that encompasses any thought that may arise," end quote. I think of Zen as practice and discipline that focuses on training the mind. We like to make things more complicated than they are, but really this is what we are trying to do when we meditate. We are trying to settle the mind, not stop our thoughts. Zen uses the breath as the object of our attention so that when our mind spins off, as often it will, we can redirect it to focus on the breath. This simple practice is what assists us in settling our thoughts. My encouraging words today are designed to open you up to the possibility of reducing suffering in your life. I will first share a brief overview of the 4 Noble Truths. These are the insights gained by the Buddha after reaching enlightenment. I'm offering a simple summary of the 4 Noble Truths as conveyed by Zen teacher Sylvia Boorstein, and I like to think of this as the 21st century version of the Buddha's enlightenment. The first Noble Truth, which you may have heard, is that the Buddha said life is suffering. It is challenging for everyone. Our physical bodies, our relationships, all of our life circumstances are fragile and subject to change. We are always accommodating. The second Noble Truth, the cause of suffering is the mind's struggle in response to challenge, which to me translates into us trying to hold on to things and wanting things to remain as they are. The third Noble Truth, the end of suffering, a non-struggling, peaceful mind, is possible. And the fourth Noble Truth, the program for ending suffering, is the Eightfold Path. Buddhists love lists. I love lists. I find lists comforting, encouraging, and easy to try when framed as a guide. There is nothing like a list to give me hope. So for me, the Eightfold Path is the ultimate list. How could you go wrong if somebody says, this is all you have to do to decrease your suffering? Teacher Boorstein says, the end of suffering hasn't happened yet for her. She struggles and suffers, but less than she used to, and is not as distraught about suffering as she used to be. So she decided to add an extra half Noble Truth. This is what I love about Buddhism. You can do that and nobody's gonna. Her half Noble Truth is called Suffering is Manageable. Short of coming to the very end of suffering, which she absolutely has faith is a possibility, She is content with managing her suffering better. I am in full agreement and consider that as encouragement enough for anyone to try the Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path is composed of 8 interconnected and interdependent elements. These are right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These elements enhance and complement each other. Of course, if there's a right, there must also be a wrong. But I like the concept that Borstein uses of referring to the Eightfold Path as wise approaches, not what right or wrong approaches. The path is not linear, but circular, which is why it is often seen more as an 8-spoked wheel than a list. As the teacher Sister True Dedication writes, quote, "The Eightfold Path is not a path of thorns or sacrifice. There is art and poetry to the path of spiritual practice. With every step, we can arrive at our destination," end quote. I love that at any given moment, since my life is my practice, one element or another of the Eightfold Path is always present. There may be times that the focus is on right speech or determining what right action to take. So I want to briefly review each element of the path for your consideration. Now, keeping in mind that the Eightfold Path is circular, that means we can enter at any of the 8 spokes. There are many opinions about the ideal way to start learning and understanding the path. Of course, no one is right or no one is wrong. How could it be otherwise? My preference is to begin with right view, since it seems such a logical place to begin anything. In the Buddhist magazine Lion's Roar in May 2023, the cover story was about the Eightfold Path. They define right view as to make a choice, moment by moment, not to focus or gaze on how we want things to be, not to ignore the parts we wish weren't there, and not to close our eyes. It's looking at what's right in front of us. Right view is that moment of discovery, of staying where we are, of opening our eyes when everything in our body is saying, "No, let me please keep my eyes shut," end quote. Teacher Bhikkhu Bodhi states, quote, "Right view is the forerunner of the entire path, the guide for all the other factors. It enables us to understand our starting point, our destination, and the successive landmarks to pass as practice and our life advances. The importance of right view can be gauged from the fact that our perspectives govern our attitudes, actions, and whole orientation to existence," end quote. This is not something to be taken lightly. So let's move on to right intention, which is also referred to as right thought. Right intention claims the second place in the path between right view and right speech. Thought is the forerunner to activity directing body and speech. When wrong views prevail, the outcome is wrong intention, giving rise to unwholesome actions. Teacher Bodhi states, quote, "The cause for the endless competition, conflict, injustice, and oppression does not lie outside the mind. These are just manifestations of intentions, outcroppings of thoughts driven by greed, hatred, and delusion," end quote. Borstein says, quote, Look what a feedback loop this is. It's a never-ending, self-supporting system, this Eightfold Path. Any piece of it builds all the other parts. The more we understand the causes of suffering, the greater our intention, the wiser and more compassionate our behavior, the clearer our minds, the deeper our understanding of suffering, the stronger our intention, over and over and on, end quote. The next three path factors, right speech, right action, and right livelihood, may be reviewed together. They collectively make up the division of moral discipline. Right speech is abstaining from lying, divisive speech, abusive speech, and idle chatter. The 5 guidelines for well-spoken speech are: is it timely, true, gentle, beneficial, and spoken with a mind of goodwill. Beyond making sure that what we say is true and beneficial, we still must wait out of compassion for the appropriate time to say it. This is quite a challenging practice, and one that I have found has resulted in my having fewer and fewer things to say. Right action refers to actions in accordance with wisdom and compassion. It arises when we are firmly grounded in right view, recognizing that actions have far-reaching consequences. We seek to understand the effects of our actions. Right action also includes not taking any action. Refraining from causing serious harm is the starting point for practicing right action. Traditionally, within the Eightfold Path, right livelihood is defined as engaging in work that does not cause harm. Any occupation that requires violation of right speech and right action is a wrong form of livelihood. There should be no deceptive advertising, misrepresentation, or dishonesty. Workers should be diligent and conscientious, and respect and consideration should be shown to employers, employees, colleagues, and customers. Again, a difficult practice. The last 3 factors of the path concern direct mental training. They are right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Teacher Bodhi reminds us that wisdom is the primary tool needed to decrease suffering and can only be accessed when the mind has been composed. Hence, the importance of meditation. Right concentration brings the requisite stillness to the mind and needs the aid of effort and mindfulness. Right effort provides the energy for the tasks. Right mindfulness, the steadying to live with awareness. Insight wisdom is a wonderful thing, but without the effort, energy, or will to apply this wisdom, we are stuck. The exertion involved in right effort is a wholesome form of energy that has to be guided by right view and right intention. This practice requires diligence, exertion, perseverance, and in my experience is absolutely exhausting. The Buddha said, quote, "I shall not give up my efforts until I have attained whatever is attainable by perseverance, energy, and endeavor," end quote. Teacher Zogetsu Norman Fisher reminds us that, quote, "We do not need Buddhist teachings to show us how to pay attention. Ordinary instances of paying attention involve evaluation, desire, and goal. Right mindfulness, in contrast, is simply seeing or simply being what is happening and paying attention, whether we like what is happening or not. We practice right mindfulness in the faith that through the practice, we will come to see how our minds create suffering and happiness. With mindfulness, it becomes hard to fool yourself, and a sense of gratitude and wisdom arise, along with a great tolerance and compassion for yourself and others, end quote. Teacher Bodhi tells us that to practice mindfulness is a matter not so much of doing, but undoing, not thinking, not judging, not associating, not planning, not imagining, not wishing. All these doings are modes of interference, ways the mind manipulates our experience. Mindfulness anchors the mind securely in the present, so it does not float away to the past or the future, end quote. This brings us to factor 8, right concentration, which is composed of unbroken attentiveness and tranquility. The Buddha compared the untrained mind to the flapping about of a fish from the water that is thrown on dry land. Our mind cannot stay fixed, but rushes from idea to idea, from thought to thought, without inner control, a state we are all too familiar with and affectionately referred to as monkey mind in Zen meditation. So how do we practice right concentration? We want to weaken the hindrances, greed, ill will, restlessness, dullness, and confusion through stilling the mind. Teacher Bradley Donaldson states that at the heart of concentration meditation is the practice of letting go of the chatter of the mind so that it can come to rest. In Zen meditation, we do this by focusing on the breath. There are several methods of meditation practice, but the best method is the one that works for you. The key is showing up for yourself gently and consistently. More important is what we do off the meditation cushion. Donaldson simply says, quote, "Commit first to right view and right intention, living a life of generosity, kindness, and discernment, then work on developing the other parts of the path," end quote. For me, meditation practice is like gardening. We prepare the soil, gather the supplies, plant the flowers and vegetables. Then all we have to do is observe and nurture, and maybe some weeding along the way. Over time, our practice releases the binds of hindrances, allowing our minds to become lighter and stronger. A mind at ease is peaceful and allows for concentration. Sylvia Boorstein says, quote, "What the Buddha taught was simple. When we see clearly, we behave impeccably," end quote. The path is always available to us. As the straw man said in The Wizard of Oz, it is best to start at the beginning. So I recommend you straighten out your views and clarify your intentions. Focus on your conduct by considering your speech, actions, and livelihood. Then apply energy and mindfulness to cultivate concentration and insight. Like anything else we learn, the rest is about practice. Decreasing your suffering is the fruit of the path, with the only requirements being to start and to continue.
Oh, wow.